My name's Lawrence Chin. I'm obviously not your speaker. I'm just part of the industry initiatives team at Palo Alto Networks. And given that there's a little bit of an industry flavor to this session, I want to just take a moment to point out some other industry-focused events that are happening at Ignite, and also some things that you could look at when you're back home in the comfort of your office. Notes. All right, so real quick, one of the things that you may have noticed is that on your badges there's an icon, and that represents the industry that you're from. And the concept behind that is I really want you guys to take a moment to, or take the opportunity to find other folks from your industry, strike up some conversations, and just more opportunities to network. We also have been, starting today, we had held an industry luncheon roundtable. There's another batch tomorrow. Just wanted to point out that those are generally in high demand. So if you have a seat at the table tomorrow, at one of the tables tomorrow, please be on time. What happens is that 10 minutes after the start, empty seats will be reassigned to folks that are waiting outside the room on standby. Additionally, what you may have heard about is that we have these hands-on workshops, so one of which is on industrial cybersecurity here at Ignite. There's also a cyber range. But most of those, from what I understand, are booked already. But what you should know is that there are additional opportunities for those hands-on workshops as well as cyber range outside of Ignite also. As far as the cyber ranges go, there are four permanent facilities that we have across the globe. So certainly, if that's something interesting to you, speak to your account rep, and they can work with you on scheduling something. Of course, the PaloAltoNetworks.com website, has some industry-specific material. So, take a look at that for your particular industry. Also wanted to put a plug for our Fuel user group. So, certainly seize the opportunity to, network with your peers either through the local chapters of Fuel, or certainly online as well. There are actually 9 different special interest groups within Fuel as well. So if you want a little more laser focus on some of the conversation, you can pursue that avenue also. And then certainly last but not least, for those of you who are going to be inspired by presentations from customers such as Tony and that you're seeing here at Ignite, certainly if you're interested and want to share your story at Ignite 2019 in Austin, certainly give that some thought and let us know. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony and let him lead you through the rest of the presentation. Thanks, Tony.
All right. First of all, thank you, Lawrence, for the introduction. Thanks, everyone at Palo Alto Networks. It's been a great event so far. Hopefully, everyone's gotten out and had a chance to go to the labs, go to the sessions, meet and greet. I think the best part of this conference is really talking with your peers, hearing about other things that we're all doing in industry. Anybody can go read the white papers and look at the products online, but it's great to hear from your fellow engineers of what's really going on out there in the world. Oh. So I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. Been doing network and network security for around 20 years. I've done everything from being an engineer up to leading teams, and I put on here led teams from low performing to high performing. And by no means do I mean bad engineers. I mean teams that weren't clicking and gelling and delivering what the customers wanted, to moving teams and moving the needle in a way that our customers are happy with our services. One thing that I really believe in, and I really hope everyone believes in, and we'll talk a little bit about that today, is the no to know. Really what that means is, as cybersecurity practitioners, as firewall engineers, we tend to give the hand to everybody and tell everybody, no, you can't do that. Instead of explaining the K-N-O-W, the no, why you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. And actually, we have a better way to do that. So hopefully, that's as what we're trying to do as practitioners in the industry, is getting folks to understand the no and not giving them the no. Nothing I'm doing here is groundbreaking, right? There's some really smart people in the industry. There's some really smart people, pardon me, getting over allergies. Really smart people in the industry, really smart people I've worked with. They've all done these great things. We've all done them in silos and in pieces. It's just putting them all together and understanding what we're trying to deliver is a service, and we're trying to have people consume a service, opposed to actually being a traditional network engineer or a firewall engineer. That's not what we're about. We're about delivering cybersecurity as a service. You've probably heard a few of these things in your workplace, or your organization, or throughout your career. Things like, we made a change this weekend, get the firewall guys on the phone, we have to start doing troubleshooting. The firewall team is always stuck in the middle some way, somehow. And it's really because we haven't engaged with our consumers to let them know what we do, how we do it, and how our services are consumed. So we want to change that and engage with the customers more. I'd rather poke a stick in my eye than work with the firewall team again. Most organizations, you're laughing because you probably hear that, right? Most organizations, you don't enjoy going to the firewall team. You don't enjoy going to the security team because everyone's giving the no. We're trying to change that and say, hey, we're trying to enable what you're doing. We want you to make progress. We want you to consume services. When you do it, we're going to envelope that with a bunch of security as well. And here's why, and here's the great things we can offer. And then delivery. At the end of the day, you have to deliver. So my project was delayed because the firewall team hasn't completed that request. More and more as things start getting more secure, we tend to fall back into the old way of doing things, of opening up holes and figure out ways to connect things. And that inherently, as the more requests come in, you don't get 100 more people to do that. You have to take on more requests, and that slows things down. So we want to move away from that and find a better way to deliver so we don't delay progress. We get our customers to consume the services. We're getting clients on board, and we're generating revenue for our clients. Quick background on Fiserv, if no one knows who they are. Fiserv is a leading global financial services provider. We're a fintech company. We have 12,000 plus clients across the globe, about 24,000 plus associates, again, across the globe. We do a myriad of services you see on the screen. Chances are, if you've done any kind of online banking transaction, payment transaction, payment processing transaction, you didn't know it, but you probably used Fiserv in the background. We enable all of our financial customers to go ahead and serve customers like you to move money, and that's what we're about. So if you want to take a quick glance at that, chances are you've used some of those services some way, somehow. Here's when we start getting into the meat of that: engage, transform, and deliver. And again, this isn't meant to be incredibly technical, so if you're looking for ones and zeros or how did you configure that, this is not what we're about. We know how to do that stuff as engineers. Really what this is about is engaging our clients and our consumers and sharing with them what we can offer, capabilities and services. We have the capabilities to do this. We have the services today to do this. How do you consume that? So the first part really is an engagement model. How do you talk to your customers and get them to understand what it is we offer and how to consume what we offer? Network is traditionally a brick wall, right? You have, in general, folks come to the firewall team and you get the, no, you can't do that, no, you can't use that port, no, you can't have that connection. And we want to change that perception. And we want to say, hey, if you follow our framework, follow the methodologies, follow these best practices, you get a fast pass right on through. We can secure this for you. The consumer demand is insatiable, and we all know that, right, from our mobile devices. Everyone knows that right now you're probably checking things and doing things and transacting online. We expect that on demand at all times, real time. Our customers don't want to wait 2 to 4 weeks for delivery. They want it right now. AWS is a great example. Amazon just commercial service or e-commerce, right? You go there and you want to buy a pack of gum. You click a button, the gum is delivered that day if you want to. Amazon's never down. You can buy anything anytime you want. So really, we have to do the same thing for our customers. Our customers are not only our external clients, but our internal folks as well inside of the company. They expect us to deliver the services quickly, so they in turn can go service our clients and start generating revenue, and in turn service folks like you so you can make your payments, do your transactions, do whatever it is. So again, how do we get in a way that we can engage so they understand what we have to offer, and how do we deliver that quickly? I put this on the back, and for me it was you guys probably remember Jurassic Park when there was that saying in the movie, it said, life will find a way. It's the same thing. If progress will find a way, whether it involves you or not. So I'd rather have progress come through us so we can actually take the actions and secure it properly, as opposed to going around us. And you'll find ancillary services, internet connections you never knew about, firewalls you never knew about, databases spun up in AWS you had no idea, because you were a roadblock and you were an impediment to progress. We want to tear down that wall. Start having them come to you as an advocate, becomes you an advisor of that service. That's how you'll start getting better engagement, and that's how you start delivering quality services. Part of that, though, you have to set up some basic model. You have to understand what you're offering. What we've done, and we've tried to do, is set up some kind of basic tenets, some guidelines, some services. I used aspirations and purposes on here. Our CEO came out with a new vision for us and talked about, instead of missions and visions, it's about aspirations and purposes. And it really resonated with me. I thought that was great. So really, it's defining what you do and why you do it. And it isn't about being the best engineer. It isn't about putting out the best firewall or the best policy. It's telling folks, hey, we're enabling connectivity. We're enabling apps and services, and here's how. And here's what you get when you consume that. And inherently, you get security services within that. Really, you got to go out there and sell that with your clients and your consumers. Explain to the app team, explain to the development team why you're doing this and why it's important, and why it actually helps them get faster and progress, as opposed to hindering them and slowing them down. We've taken a service-oriented approach, simplifying the decision tree, removing obstacles. You can read all those. Really, all that means is we defined our services. We let customers know what to expect when you get that service. We're trying to empower the engineers to make a decision on that service offering, engage and say, hey, the KNOW, the no, here's how you consume that service, and here's how you can get it through very quickly. By the way, and you get all this cool stuff with it. Training your engineers and consumers, right? This is a big part of it. You have to go out there and explain what you're about, what you're doing, what you're building. You need to get buy-in from your team first. That was one of the biggest problems I had, was changing the culture within our team first. I couldn't go out there and sell something to our clients and consumers if my team didn't have the buy-in. So really helping your engineers understand there's a different way to do it. There's a better way to do it. And we're here, again, that we deliver services, not engineering. We're not here to be firewall engineers. We're here to actually deliver world-class services so our product folks can deliver world-class services. We just happen to do it with firewalls, with threat profiling, things like that. Have the hard conversations. There's going to be people that don't align with that. Pardon me. That don't align with that. There's going to be people that don't see that vision, and that's okay. You can bring them along, or they'll choose to go find somewhere else to go, and that's okay. This isn't for everybody, right? We understand that, and this doesn't mean every company has to do this. This is just something we chose to do and had the hard conversations with folks, and I'm excited because most of the engineers have come along board, and they're really energized about it, and we're delivering some really cool services from it. Accountability equals pride. Most folks shy away from accountability, but really, if you start making people empowered and accountable, they take pride in ownership. They're really going to want to deliver that world-class service. They're really going to want to go out there and impress their clients and customers. So give your engineers accountability. Hold yourself accountable to your client. Understand what they're actually trying to consume, and go out there and deliver the best you possibly can. And I just put goals matter, meaning I think Nir talked about it, or maybe it was Mark in the opening session. If you guys had a chance to attend, he talked about a 10-year vision, and he said something like, "I have no idea if we'll get there, but it's something we're going to strive to get to." I love that kind of stuff. Aim for something. I have some of my team members here, and they're always laughing at me because they're off in the cloud. I'm off in the clouds thinking about something crazy, and they always say, "You're not in reality." Maybe not. That's fine, but at least we're going to try to get there, right? We're going to keep driving towards it. So have fun doing that. Transforming, and I have the typical think outside the box slide there, right? Really, this just means really think outside the box. What you've been doing for the last 10 years doesn't mean you have to still do that tomorrow. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Don't be afraid to change the way you think and evolve. It starts with, I think, building a solid framework, and I call it a framework. It's an architectural framework. It's a cultural framework. It's a way of thinking. We're all here to embrace the Palo Alto Networks and what they offer and deliver, but don't build your framework around Palo Alto Networks. Build your framework around agnostic vendor and agnostic technologies. Come up with services and capabilities that you want to deliver, and you just happen to choose Palo Alto Networks to deliver those services. I happen to believe they're some of the best in the industry delivering that stuff. You may not believe that, and that's fine. There's other areas of security that Palo Alto Networks either doesn't do or may not be the best approach. You may choose somebody else, and that's fine as well. Just make sure when you're delivering a framework, it's agnostic of technology and agnostic of vendor. It's about capabilities and services. I put this, embrace your uniquely unique. You are uniquely not unique. And all that really means is most of us here are in financial services, most likely. If not, no big deal. You could be an automotive maker. You could be a peanut butter manufacturer. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're all doing cybersecurity. We may have different compliance and regulation things we have to deal with, or different customers or business model, but it doesn't really matter. Packets are packets. They're passing. We're doing cybersecurity. We're doing threat analytics. So set up your framework so it's malleable. It moves back and forth with that. It doesn't really matter. We've chosen three, I'm calling them our 3 pillars to success. It's kind of corny. But it comes down to 3 things. We've chosen, in order to get our services out there quickly, to make our customers happy, we chose self-service, inherited services, and automation, and we'll go through kind of what some of that stuff means. But that's how we're trying to deliver, I'll call it cloud capabilities to our customers. And really, it's getting us out of the way and letting our product and application owners consume those services and deliver security on their own behalf. This is what each of those pillars mean. Self-service is kind of exactly what you think of, right? It's somewhere you can go as an app owner, as a product owner, click a button and consume that service yourself. You don't need, again, you see at the bottom of all of it, you don't need an engineer for this. We don't want engineers engaged for some of those self-service type of things. We've done things like onboarding of clients. So you can now go, for the most part, you can go hit a website, do a couple clicks. You can onboard a client without ever engaging a firewall engineer. That's what we want. The client is consuming a service that already exists. We're not engineering anything special for them. Why are we in the way of progress? Let's just let our product owners, our professional services teams, our business units go ahead and consume that themselves. Click a button, hit provision, go. Same things like when I mentioned in the beginning. Hey, we made a change. We need the firewall guys on to investigate. Well, why do you need that? Go to a log search engine. Go do some analysis. Go to a place where you can do a policy search and make sure the rule's in there or not. So we've kind of taken that burden away, or we're trying to take the burden away from the engineers and empowering our consumers to consume that. Inherited services, it is what it is, right? These are typical things. We used to get tons of requests for things like, hey, I built a new server. I need to open up a firewall for monitoring. Why would you ever need to ask for monitoring? We want you to be monitored. So we just took a bunch of services. I think in one of the slides I talk about how many. Let's just say 30 plus services inside of the data centers that we say you never have to ask for that service. It's pre-provisioned for you as long as you consume it this way, meaning you set up your profile right, you tag your stuff correctly, you point to the right stuff. If you do that, you never have to talk to the firewall dude again. You can go ahead and consume these services. It's inherited for what you are. So it comes with your server. And then the automated services. We've chosen things like NSX to go ahead and automate things. So as a VM gets built, again, you don't need to talk to a firewall engineer. A VM gets built, it gets populated, it gets all the tags and profiles set, talks to Panorama, pushes down to all the firewalls, so we don't have to actually engage in that process. It's really good for elasticity, right? If you have capacity or you want to move workloads, why do you want to talk to an engineer? That takes time, effort, and progress and money. Let's just let the application owners do it themselves. They can actually build a server, add it into the shell, and they keep on moving. And we've done, I'll show at the end, I think we've done around 6,000 VMs to date with that, and it's kind of going to be a hockey stick approach. It's going to start ramping up really quickly, and we're pretty excited about that. And then API modeling we've done, we're trying to say, again, vendor agnostic. So when you come in and you're a new vendor or a new product or service, we're trying to set up an API framework where we can all talk to each other. So that's a big part of what we're doing now. Trying to move away from the manual part, trying to set up scripting and our portals and our tooling that can leverage the APIs, available in not just Palo Alto Networks, but any product, and move that forward so things are seamless in provisioning. And we've actually done a little bit ourselves. Again, with that self-service, there's a portal that we've created that leverages some of that stuff, which has really been great for us. Now the hard part, really. So you've talked about engaging our customers. You've said, hey, here's the services and capabilities we have to offer. We've talked about how we're going to actually do that, setting up frameworks and transforming our culture and how we're going to deliver. But now we have to actually go deliver it. Otherwise, it's all hogwash, right? So a mantra that we have at Fiserv is called delivering services at the speed of life. So if Fiserv believes that, and if Fiserv is telling that to their clients, you can't have a firewall team delaying progress, right? You can't have security teams delaying because we've given the no hand. We need to be able to embrace that and deliver that with all of our services. Some of the things that we've done to deliver that is making sure everything's cloud enabled, making sure everything has or is enveloped in some kind of an API framework that it's consumable that way. Vendor agnostic, I believe, is very important. Again, we all love Palo Alto Networks. We believe in them. That's why we're here. But you should build your framework without them involved. Build it so it's a service and a capability that you just happen to consume Palo Alto Networks. And secure by design. I truly believe that you'll have security if you build it in the provisioning process, not if you have it inserted somewhere, and not if you bolt it on the end, or not if you rely on a SIM or a team of SOC engineers. Really need to have it embedded in the provisioning process. So that's the security by design. As you get onboarded, you get the same profiles, you get the same services that are consumed. I don't even think the application owners know what they're getting at times. It's just there. It's inherited with them, and that's a good thing. Applications rule, networks drool, right? So gone are the days of source destination protocol port. We still live in that world. It's probably not going to go away for a while, but we really want to have the conversations with people and start explaining to them, we're delivering applications, we're not delivering IP address 1.1.1.1. That's not what we're delivering. That server is doing something. What is it doing? What is it talking on? What is the purpose of it? So what we're doing is we're building shells for applications, and we're moving towards this way as much as possible. This has probably been the biggest challenge for us as we've kind of moved through this journey, is getting folks to leave what they've been doing for 10 to 15 years on network-based security and moving into the application world and application-based security. You'll find application owners say, well, my app is unique. We custom built it. You did, but it's just doing SSL across the wire. So really, that's what we're talking about, right? Network application-based things. So just having that conversation, understanding this isn't about source destination protocol port anymore. We're moving in the application world. Start having those conversations. Every request that comes in, flip it. Have the conversation. What is this for? What are you guys delivering? What are you doing? And bring it back into an application, because they can quickly relate to it. Most application people, most developers, they're struggling. They hate filling out the firewall form or the request with the IPs and the ports. They love talking about their application. So turn it around with them. Talk about that application. Deliver it that way. So once we have our engagement model, we've talked about how we're going to transform, and we talked about how we're going to deliver that transformation. We started looking at, here's the traditional threat model. Everyone's seeing the circles and the inside-outside stuff. The typical things that network security teams do is WAF, DDoS, firewall, IPS, and data security. And data security is typical, a lot of content, URL, whatever you want to do inside of the data center. We chose Palo for those three, the firewall, IPS, and data security, to leverage. We have other vendors that are taking care of the top two. So we went out and looked and said, Palo is the best choice for us to do those services. When we did that, we said, well, part of the things we have to do is we can't go and manage hundreds or thousands of security devices independently. It has to be a centralized management platform, has to understand applications. It can't go in traditional application or source destination protocol port. We're looking for application-based security. And it has to be automation capable. Panorama is perfect for that. It actually has an API. It actually has its own management platform, and the integration with NSX was perfect for us. So we were super jazzed and excited about that. Build a solid framework agnostic of vendor and technology. Same thing. What we did was we just said, hey, typically in a data center, I know the perimeter no longer exists, but we defined the perimeter not as outside in, which that is outside in, but it's also zone-based, a typical web app data. Those are perimeters, right? Those are zones that we define perimeters around. So we have a perimeter strategy. We have a core strategy, which is nothing more than transit. In order to get from a zone to a zone or to an area, you have a core. And then you have a data strategy. That's where the real stuff lives, your PII PAN data. And that's the protection mechanisms we have. So we have different security models and different roles and zones for each of those that we built. This was our old approach. We had a bunch of firewalls sitting out there. They were kind of on their own. It was the ABC firewall, talking to the XYZ firewall, talking to the 123 firewall. And they were all kind of managed independently. They all had their own policies. And you had to go through and figure out, it's in some cases, and I'm not joking on this, you may have paths with 12 firewalls in the path to make 2 apps across the country talk. That's miserable for a firewall engineer. It's miserable for a network engineer and for an application engineer to figure out. And that's how we were managing it. Very slow, expensive, and confusing. I feel bad for the engineers today in our legacy world that have to go through and provision things. It's daunting. And it's just because of sprawl, growth in our business, things like that, haven't really controlled it. So we said we can't do that anymore. That's impeding progress, not from the engineer's fault, just from the inherent design that we had that's impeding progress. So we stripped everything back and said, we're going to start managing things by groups. So we manage our firewalls not by individual firewalls anymore. We now call them internet. And let's just say that you have 4 data centers. Each data center has an internet firewall. We don't look at it as 4 separate firewalls. It's the internet zone. We manage them across the board as the internet. Same thing as corporate or a compute compartment or a management network or a WAN. It's the same thing. We built, for us, device groups. You manage the group across. This way, if workloads flow back and forth, there is nothing that really changes in that environment. And then what we decided was we should have a single threat model. So everyone consumes the same threat model, meaning you get the same signatures, same modeling, same analytics. It doesn't really matter. We didn't want to create unicorns for everybody. No app to us was unique. We had the same cybersecurity challenges, so we used the same threat model for everybody. This is just a general how we did our stacking and our templating. So we built, again, I'm sure everyone here has maybe done stacking and templates. If you haven't, there's some experts in the room that can talk to you about it. It's really cool. But it's a nice, easy way to deploy and manage firewalls. We started with the physical firewall. We layered on top of it. We call it the compartment. It's the compute compartment that we live in. So that compute area gets a stack. Then you have a data center. So we have a Georgia data center, a Texas data center, and an Arizona data center. You get those things laid on top of it, and then you get the enterprise stuff. So we just stack them on top of each other. So you can insert whatever you need to insert inside of that stack, and it works really well. And then we just separated those out by groups. Again, internet zone, WAN zone, compute zone, core, all that kind of good stuff. If you manage them that way, the firewalls become just dumb hardware at that point, and you're managing groups and policies at a different level. It's abstracted from the hardware, which is what we want to do. This is funny. My boss is in here. So we were trying to come up with a couple years ago, how do we present it to business units? How do we present this to the people that don't understand technology? And we all joke about bubbles and sticks. And you can, Steve Hodgins is in here, which is great. He actually created this diagram because it really simplified it, and it's actually stood the test of time. So this is a really simplified view of our data center model, right? And there's a lot more complexity that's inside of there. But at the end of the day, you have that perimeter I was talking about. That's your internet, client WAN, corporate WAN, extranet kind of connectivity. Those have general firewalling rules and policies and things that apply to it. We have our data center core, which is a free packet passing highway. Go ahead and get to zone. And then we put firewalls in each compute area, compute compartment. And that's where all our apps and services live. And inside there's zones and policies, things like that. And then we just isolated out the management zone and the corporate zone. Just for everyone's knowledge, we chose the 5000 series as any ingress, egress into the data center. So the internet, WAN, extranet kind of connectivities. Those are all 5000 series. And for everything inside of the compute compartments, we chose the 7000 series. So that's what we're using today. We thought both of those have plenty of beef and horsepower. The 7000 series obviously has a bunch of scale and capacity as we grow. We don't have to worry too much, and if we ever outgrow those, if you invest in Fiserv stock, you probably made a lot of money, so that's a good thing. The self-service model, so let's get into a little bit of that. So really what drives a lot of what we do is that self-service model. We've created an interface for folks to actually come in, hit a website, actually provision things on the fly. You don't have to open a ticket request. You don't have to do anything. You actually just go, click, go. It's an existing service. It's an onboard provisioning thing. Go ahead and do it. You don't need to talk to anybody, which is really cool. Inside there, we also recognized, well, what if someone doesn't know if it's already provisioned? So we've given them things like you can do a policy lookup tool or a policy lookup and get the results back. You can do log searching and get results back. You can do some, I don't know, I know the VM team provisioned it and it has some NSX tags and profiles associated. What are those? Well, we provided that as well. So it's just a way that consumers can go and tie in their application built on a VM into the security area. It's just a way for them to look for it, and if possible, provision it real quickly. So that's growing day by day, and we're pretty excited about that. What we've really used on that one in the back end, if you guys haven't used them, you should. It's the external dynamic list. It's nothing more than a list sitting on a server that the firewall calls and gets the IPs from. But it's really cool. It's a way for folks to self-provision themselves and not have to deal with a firewall engineer. The inherited services part, this is what I was talking about before. We have 32 services defined. I put the asterisk because it could be 34 by today. I have no idea. These are things like DNS, NTP, LDAP. If you're a Windows server, you can get to SCOM or the PUP server, things like that. You don't need to request that stuff. You get it inherently. We provided off of that same portal just a way to look that up, right? So there is no question. If you do this stuff, you automatically get provisioned. You don't have to ask us. It just works. And really what that does, that bottom statement is really, really important to us. It prevents rogue deployments and ancillary services getting stood up. Remember that progress will find a way around you, over you, under you. If you don't provide an easy way to consume services and to provision apps and get out of the way, those app owners and developers, they'll find their own way. They'll pin up their own internet connection. They'll build their own thing in AWS. They'll build their own VM that has a DNS server. So again, it's just a way of provisioning it for them so they don't have to worry about it and they can go off and do the great things that they do. Automation. Automated, your life depends on it. Everything, I'm assuming we've all heard this, right? We need to start driving automation into everything we do. The bad guys don't sleep. Neither should you, right? So the faster we can provision things, the faster we can bolt on all that security stuff and inherently grant it, the better off we're all going to be. What we do is we look for anything repeatable. We have a guy in the audience today. He's crazy, but I love him because what he does is he says anything that comes in more than once, he gets really frustrated by that. So he said, I got to figure out a way to automate that, right? I got to figure out for that to go away. So he self-services it or he automates it. And that's a good thing because really at the end of the day, our consumers and our customers are happy with that because now they don't have to wait. They actually get it provisioned on the fly. And again, if you're not automating, you're losing ground, right? Whether it's security or whether it's just provisioning apps and services, your competition is going to beat you because they are automating. They are doing something different. So get used to this. Start thinking when you're training yourself. Start learning some scripting. Start learning some APIs. Start hiring that way. It'll benefit you in the long run. Data center, we all know this, right? Data center have no borders. So what we set out to build was data center agnostic applications, meaning we don't care if you live in a data center in Georgia and you have a DR in Texas. Your right, your choice, that's fine. If you have a data center in Georgia and a data center or an application in Georgia, Texas, and Arizona, and you want to run it hot, 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 and you want to have full GSLB services, that's fine too. We don't care. It's a borderless data center for us. We are focused on the application and delivering that. So put your app where you want it, consume it how you want it, including we've set up a framework where if we need to burst into a public cloud, we're set up and we're ready to do that. It's just a matter of provisioning it, getting it ready. So that's why I was talking about the agnostic, vendor agnostic, technology agnostic. Set yourself up because you know the day is coming if you're going to go public cloud. You know the day is coming if you're going to build a private cloud or you're going to integrate with a third party or a partner somewhere else. Set that up so it's a framework so where it's easily provisional and you just pop it right in, it's plug and play. Here's some just general stats that I want to throw out there. These are service requests, and you see the trend is going way down. Around May of last year is when we kind of started really getting going in this. One thing to call out here is that this is not just automation. This is actually also in our legacy space using legacy technology. But what we've noticed is because we're provisioning all the cool stuff instantly, within minutes, within seconds, we've also rethought the way we're consuming the old services, and we're making them better as well. So you can see the request time, and it's kind of embarrassing, was around 55 days to actually get an application provisioned through security services about 1.5 years ago. Again, pretty embarrassing. It seems like a long time. Now we're hovering around 3 days. And really that is a lot of legacy practices and conversations, the email banter going back, what is that application? I know you sent this IP, but what is it really doing? That's really the conversations that are going on. And it also is inherent with the automatic stuff that's happening in a nanosecond as well. So it averages out to around 3 days from there. So you can see we went from 55 days provisioning to 3 days. And again, I don't have in there things like 55 days when we were in May 17. We weren't really giving much security. we were just giving them base port connectivity opening. Now we're down to 3 days, and we're adding on all this cool security, and people don't really know what's happening. We're adding on application ID and threat and URL and all that kind of cool stuff that we've been granting, and we're provisioning it much quicker. So that's just a good thing for everybody. To date, we have a little over 6,000 VMs. I don't know the number. It ebbs and flows, but it's growing, and it's kind of, again, a hockey stick kind of curve. We have around 36,000 mappings with that. So those are mapped into different groups that way. And then we have 2,000 plus dynamic groups, and those are just groups that we're feeding in from NSX that NSX sends us, and we provision those in the firewall platforms. So it's all dynamic, meaning VMs get provisioned all day long, and we don't even know what's happening. It's fine. It's moving in and out. It's elastic, and it's great for us. The good thing for us, again, it's common threat profiles. Everyone's consuming the same stuff. It's an application-driven world, meaning we're talking application frameworks and shells. We're no longer talking ports and protocols. And we think this is going to be an enabler for us. So this is something that our business units can use and tout to get out there and say, hey, not only do we have cool products and services, but behind it, we're guaranteeing your data is protected. We're guaranteeing we have a good shell and a framework set up. So we're hoping it becomes a differentiator for us in the financial world. And we're holding our head up high on that one. That's all I really had. I can tell you some things that we've learned and grown from. We are, just so everyone knows, we are on version 7. We haven't 7.1. We haven't figured out a way to get to 8 yet. There's a few little quirks, probably something that we're doing differently in the NSX integration with version 8. We can't wait to get to version 8, PanOS 8. It sounds awesome, and I think some of the engineers have looked at it and they love it. But there's a few hiccups that we're still waiting on to get fixed. And it sounds like they've been fixed. We just got to go test them. But with version 7.1, if you guys are using NSX, version 7.1 only allows you one connection to one NSX manager controller. We have multiple, so we've had to do a little scripting in the back end where we have different panoramas talking to different NSXs, and we're kind of scripting them up and making them all. We created our own kind of mom platform with Panorama. So some unique challenges that aren't unique to us. It sounds like other customers are doing it, but I wanted to just explain it isn't all unicorns and rainbows, right? There is some challenges you come with, especially when you're kind of leading edge and doing some of the things that we're doing. But by and large, you see 6,000 VMs are provisioned without the help of an engineer at all, right? People are just consuming it that quickly. We're able to, what that really means is application owners and product developers are able to deploy things quicker, realize revenue quicker, make our clients happy, right? Solve problems quicker. So we think it's a win, it's worth the risk. That's my story. That's about it. So do we have any questions or? Probably. Yeah, so just so you know, what he mentioned, he's a Fiserv employee. So what he mentioned is during around pretty much Thanksgiving to New Year's, the company almost shuts down a little bit, right? That's a peak time for us, obviously financial transactions during the holiday season. So we kind of go into lull mode and watch mode, making sure nothing's broken. So that's probably the spike you see up there. Mm-hmm. Yes? Combo of things. So we're leveraging as much as possible VMware's NSX. That's going to be the VM part of it. But we also have a gentleman in the green shirt, if you want to chat with him. He's the weird guy behind the screen that's creating all these cool scripts and portals and APIs. So he's got a list of how many, probably 15 to 20 different things we're calling on to make things kind of gel and work. So we're really leveraging NSX as much as possible. That's where we want to, you provision everything there, you define all your security profiles and tags there, and you consume them in Panorama. There's obviously a legacy world, so he's been able to mimic NSX in the legacy world. So we still have physical servers, we still have stuff that's not really in the new area yet, and we're kind of scripting magic and making it all go through. Good answer. I don't have an answer. That's been the toughest one, right? I mean, look, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, the compliance world hasn't caught up to the automated world, right? And ITIL hasn't caught up to the automated world. So what we've done is things, so whenever a VM gets provisioned, we're following the checkboxes, right? So here's what we're doing. The VM gets provisioned, it actually opens up, we use ServiceNow as our workflow management tool. It opens up a request and closes a request automatically. So we have a change, a record that's authorized that to happen. But there is no one really doing a peer review. There's no change management. These are BAU changes that, look, we do these things all the time, so we got approval to say, we'll still record them to meet the compliance, but we're not constantly reviewing them. Does that make sense, or, yeah? But it's a good question, because it hasn't, auditors haven't caught up, compliance principals haven't caught up, ITIL hasn't caught up, so. Any other questions? I'm not sure if we're quick or, got a few minutes left. All right. I guess we'll give it back some time. This is good. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.